So, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Jnanavarthini, the weekly knowledge session of FDP Pay, where we discuss technologies, practices, regulations, and other developments in the privacy world. Today's speaker, Mr. Rakesh Mishra, has nearly 2 decades of experience in cybersecurity, which includes stints in Tech Mahindra and HCL. He is founder CEO of Whitehat Cybersecurity Automation and GRC Consulting Organization. He'll be speaking about an integrated framework for privacy compliance and will be presenting his solutions. Welcome, Mr. Rakesh. Good to have you here. Over to you.
Thank you very much for the introduction. And once again, good evening, everyone. So I'll share my screen. Just give me 1 second. So just let me know if everyone can see my screen.
Yes, it is.
So today we'll be discussing the very hot topic in the market that we have today is the privacy compliance. And what we have been trying to put in here is that how the organization should stitch in their privacy framework. And we call it as an integrated privacy framework because it's not about only the technology, it's all about how you understand, how you make your people understand the privacy and how you deal with those privacy concerns. So the agenda is very simple. We'll be talking privacy in a very simple language. I'll not be explaining on GDPR rights and all because those have been spoken a lot in many forums. So how we understand and how as a technology company should take care of their organizations or their customers whenever they are dealing with the privacy related questionnaires or privacy related enhancements that they require. So there will be four points today. Privacy in a very, very simple language that we'll be trying to showcase here. Then what is the data subjects? That is a major part because organizations have a huge responsibility in maintaining the data subjects, their rights and the consents. Then the understanding of how the privacy framework should be in the organization. And then what are the steps that should be taken by the organization people to initiate the privacy compliance in their organization. I'll just put in the slideshow so that it will be easy. It's very simple in the privacy. That's what we have observed many places. There are only two parties. One is the organization where in the privacy terms we call it as the data controllers or the processors, and the users whom we know as the data subjects who will be sharing the data with the organization based on the consent that they provide. Organizations, they have the obligations to explain the users that how they are going to use or process their data and what are the benefits or will there be any benefits or not. They would be putting up some notifications or they will be putting up some information related to what are the obligations for using their data. Based on the explanation that the organization provides, then the user has the objective to provide the consent, and then they also have the rights to pull up the consents. So these two parties are the major role players. And when we talk about the users, it may be the internal users who are your employees or the users who are even your third-party suppliers or vendors, or the end users in terms of, just for example, in terms of the e-commerce company, the general users who are sharing their data with the companies, with the organization like telephone numbers and all. So how to protect that? So these are the two parties in a very, very simple language and how they are connected to each other in terms of the privacy. Now, when we talk about the data subject and rights, that is the most critical part here. The data subject has the options of providing the consents either through the physical forms. Many organizations we have seen whenever a user joins in, they have the physical consents where they take it on a piece of paper where they put in the certain clauses of the organization, and then they are signed by the normal users. And then there is a mechanism of digital consent, like from the applications or from the mobile apps or whatever digital means that can be thought of. So the users provide the consents to the organizations of how their data is going to be used. And once the consents are provided, the data comes in within the organization. And then the rights or the data rights starts, because once the consent is given, then the data rights process starts, where the subjects has the rights of, I have listed 5 or 6 rights here, not more than that, though there are approximately 8 or 9 data subject rights that has been defined in GDPR articles and all. But I have listed few most critical part here. One is the data rights, where the data transfer from one location to another location, or from one user to another, from one vendor to another vendor, in case of vendor empanelments and all. So that transfer rights consents has to be there. Rectification of the data. If the data of the user is not correct, then the subjects has the rights to ask the organization to rectify those mistakes and update their data pointers. Then in terms of the processing, they have the options, or they have the rights to ask the organization that you have to go for a limited processing. Limited processing means only few tick marks has to be there, not every data has to be processed. This is the biggest part that we have seen from all the customers where we are dealing with that. Right to erase of my data, which is the data erasure part. And there are very, very few solutions in the market that helps the organization deal with this intent and deal with the right to erasure of the data. And then there are other objects also where the rights are there that no processing should be happen, that the data should reside in the organization only for a certain specific purpose, and it should not be processed to a third party or any other vendors for any other activities. Now, when we talk about these consents and rights management, then the major problems comes for the organization is how to manage this. That is a major challenge, because we have very few limited approaches, and it's a very wide area where the normal user has multiple rights, and a single mistake by the organization puts them into a deck where they have to pay a huge penalty in terms of the data breaches. And we all have seen that huge amount of data breaches are happening every day in the markets. So that is a major solution, major challenge to the organization, how to deal with this kind of things here. Sorry. Now, the solution to this entire problem, or the challenge that we have in the digital world, is creation of the comprehensive integrated privacy framework, which is a mix of the processes that the organization puts in place, mapped with the next gen data privacy solution. When we call about the next gen data privacy solution, it's all built on the AI, machine learning, and those solutions that keeps on learning on a day-to-day basis to understand how the user data is being populated from one place to another place. So when we talk about setting up of the privacy structure and setup, it's very important that it has to take a governance mechanism, which is a top-down approach from the organization. Means the organization top management has to understand the privacy as a key component of their organization structure. So the setup structure has to be the first part that they have to think about. It is what should be the structure of the privacy in the organization. And then it should be a top-down approach where a top management, be it a CEO, be it a CISO, or a data protection officer, who should be at the highest level of taking up the privacy challenges, should be in the committee or should be in the governance board for the organization. And then third phase should be building of these processes and supporting technologies that will be setting up the entire privacy framework. Just 1 second. Now, how to do that is to use all the automation solutions that we have available in the market, because it's very, very difficult to use it mostly through the manual interventions. It's almost difficult that all the data can be mapped through the manual intervention, and all the data can be captured through the manual processes. Now, the first step towards the privacy that we have to take is the privacy by design principle. That is the major step. Whenever we are designing, there is a privacy by design principle. Now, how you have to do it, you have to design an entire mechanism where you start up with the privacy impact assessment for the organization. That's how we are doing it for all our customers, wherever we are providing the privacy framework. So we start up with the privacy impact assessment, which is a gray area where we don't know what exactly the data is, where the data is lying. Now, once the impact assessment starts, we have to identify all kind of the data types that is there in the organization, be it sensitive, be it financial or confidential, or any of the data types which you think about it, be it personal data. Now, once all the data types has been identified, you have to apply the business logics to categorize and classify these data in terms of the PII data, which is the personal information, or the sensitive PII data. So these are the categories that you can define, or you can define your custom categories. But the most important part is you have to apply the business logics to them so that these data are segregated in a way to be easily mapped for taking further actions. Now, using of the AI and machine learning and automations to create custom smart tags, that is very, very important, because the smart tags helps the data to be tagged in a way that it can be easily found across the GBs or TBs or petabytes of data across the environment, because we have now the on-premises, we have the hybrid architecture, we have the S3 buckets, we have the applications, we have the databases, structured, unstructured. There are so many things that happens everywhere. So that can only be done through an AI ML, where automatically all these things are integrated and you initiate the activity to find out all the tags there. And post the tagging of the smart data and all the data tags, you create a data map to identify where the data is lying and who has been accessing those data and what are the rights that has been assigned to those data. These are the very, very critical steps towards initiating the privacy mechanism in your organization. So data map is a very, very important feature that creates a complete map of where the data is lying. Now, I have just put in a simple process workflow. Once we have found out where the data is there across the locations, then we need to identify what are the security controls in place, be it encryption, masking, or password, or multiple other security protections that we have to identify. And then what are the data access mechanisms, how the data is being accessed, whether we have got the user consent, and the most important part is, once the user gives the consent, whether those consents relate to organization security policy, whether it's a violation, then organization security policy should be overriding the user consents, or otherwise we should record the consent of the users. This is the first flow of how the users and the data consent has to be mapped into the system. And all this happens through, or should happen through, an automated process flow and integrated solutions in your environment, because it's very difficult to map it through the manual process. So most of the automated solutions that we have these days, they follow this kind of the mechanisms to map each and every data across the organization. Now, when we talk about the privacy components, what are the key privacy components? The first component is the discover mechanism. Then we have the categorize. We need to categorize the discovered data wherever it is present. Then we have to integrate that with the solutions through which you can take further actions of how to mitigate the privacy challenges that you face. Then you have to visualize the data. What is the visual format of the data, whether it's a sensitive data or a personal data or image or biometrics, what exactly is that? And then you have to patch and secure the data. So very few solutions are there in the market that deals with data patching and securing your data across the organization. And just think about it, once you have identified where the data is lying, then going back to admin and saying that you have to delete all these kind of the data, or you have to transfer those data, it's a very, very tedious task for them to go manually one by one across the system and find out and do all the activities. Once you've done all these things, then the major part is to integrate this entire process chain with the GRC solution, because GRC solution is the only one solution through which you can manage your privacy incidents, because you are bound to make incidents in the organization when the privacy concerns are there, and privacy incident is a major part of the privacy challenge. And then you have the workflows, because whenever the user raises any request in the organization for deletion of the data or for rectification of the data, it has to go through a workflow in the organization. So you have to go for a workflow mechanism. Then once all the user rights and consents has to be recorded into GRC solution so that it is visible to almost each and every required authorized departments or the business owners to take the further consents, or if required, if the consent has been revoked, then that can also happen only through a GRC solution so that it automatically flows to the entire chain. Suppose if the user wants that, I do not want to give a consent to use my Aadhaar ID. Now, the moment he raises a request on the GRC solution, it automatically flows into the workflows. And then once it is approved, then the entire chain gets affected. So that is the only way you can automate the entire process there. Which will ensure that you have a continuous compliance towards the privacy in the organization. So GRC solution integration, that's how we have been doing it for customers. And that's how most of the organization are looking forward towards automation of the privacy part. Now, once this is done, we have the final takeaways. It's a very simple slides here. How do you build the framework? It should be a top-down approach from the management. Then we should have the technology connect to identify different smart solutions in the market. And then we have to maintain the privacy operations through dedicated privacy officers or the privacy operation centers. Just like we have the security operation centers, we have to integrate the privacy operations also into the security operation centers. And then privacy compliance, where a continuous compliance has to be achieved through the GRC automation platforms. You can choose any GRC automation platform, but here we are promoting our solutions there. Now, how to build the integrated privacy framework? That's how Whitehat does, is we have the next gen GRC automation, which is a completely pre-built automated workflow solution, where most of the things are already automated into the system. And then we have the most critical part here, which is a complete data security suite, which we call it as a data foresight, where the solution is highly built on AI machine learning, and it has the capability to find out the data or the sensitive or the private data across clouds, across OneDrive, Google Drive, Azure, AWS, S3, emails, structured data, unstructured data, and many advanced features are there to remove the false positives into the systems. So these two are integrated privacy frameworks in our solutions, which we implement for our customers, and which we have, based on which we have built up this presentation for you. Now, this is all general slides that we have, and I'm open for the questions, or if you, I'm open for the questions here.
Rakesh, this is Ramesh here. Can I request you to go back to the privacy flow slide deck? Probably 2, 3, previous one.
Yeah, just one second.
Yeah, stay there.
Yes.
Now, here you are talking about violations to organization security policy, right? So the user consent, if it is going to have any problem, if it is yes, then organization policy overrides the user consent. Can you give me an example, specific one here? What could be the violations?
Okay.
If you are aware, yeah.
Let's take an example. This we came up with a discussion with the client, right? So there the user was not willing to share the PAN card to the organization. Now, PAN cards are very, very mandatory for the organization to process the payroll and issue the Form 16. So that, because user was not willing to give a consent, and that part, then the organization central security, it is mandatory for the organization to process the Form 16, so that organization controls will override the user consent mechanism. The only thing here is that the organization has those mechanisms to protect the PAN card, because the user was not willing to share it, and they had this provision that it should be, because normally what happens is people take it in a plain text format. In most of the cases, they take it just a screenshot or take it on the mail where the user PAN card details are there. It's all written in the plain text format. The user was not willing to share those information for processing of their Form 16. So in that case, organization controls overrides the user consent.
Mm-hmm. Is this a solution is an on-premise solution or a cloud SaaS?
Both the solutions are, we have both the options available. It's on-premise as well as cloud also. Because multiple requirements are there for the customers. Most of the enterprise customers, they are okay to go on the SaaS model. Post-COVID, they are okay to go on to the SaaS model. And but BFSI customers, they are reluctant to go, so they host it in their premises. So both the options are available.
This particular product, what you're talking about, what kind of regulations have been built in? You said GDPR, or like GDPR, any other privacy framework has been already built in?
Yes, we have built in the compliance that is there in the Middle East, because as I mentioned, Middle East is our major customer where these compliances are used. So we have got the compliances for GDPR. We are coming up. We are coming up with the data protection bill India framework also. We are just waiting for the final bills to be approved so that we can do the final changes. But most of the part is already there. And the compliances for GDPR, we are coming up with the US also, where the social security and all these parts are there. So Middle East and GDPR is most prevalent as of now.
Okay. DIFL maybe, I don't know. Just go back to one more slide back. One more slide back. You talked about here data patching, right? After visualizing patch and secure,
Right.
you used a word data patching. Can you kindly elaborate? What do you mean by data patching there?
It will be good if I can show you the entire. If we have how much time we are left with, I can show you what exactly is the patching. That will give a more idea of that.
Okay, no problem. Last question from my side. Let's say that the first slide you nicely talked about the consent could be manual or it could be digital. Now let's say that, is that happening in Middle East, that consent is also manual?
Yes, some
Okay.
cases.
Now, if it is manual, how is it getting tracked now? Go to that last slide, your GRC. If you go to GRC, how it is getting tracked now?
Right.
If it is manual. Yeah.
Right. So what is being done here, right? Right. Whenever the consent is being taken, now the digitization has to happen. Right. Because I tell you how exactly it is happening. Most of the banks and the financial institutions, they have the legacy framework into the system. So what they're doing is they have the KYC document. So where the people used to do the signatures with the cross signatures and all. So what they do is they take it and then digitize it and then upload it on the system there.
Okay. So image file or PNG, whatever you are calling.
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
So you are
PDF,
maintaining the evidence basically. Okay.
correct.
Whether your application catches some kind of key fields from that PDF to put it as part of your application and then that tagging done.
Yes.
Okay.
So
Okay,
like for example, if we know that signature is a signature or the image or the photograph is a very critical personal information for a user as well as for the bank as a KYC document, right? So we capture even the image through the image processing techniques and even the signatures based on that these are the critical signatures, and then we put it in our framework that these are the private solutions there.
Okay. Before, really thanks a lot. Two more questions I have. One, for example, you're talking about GDPR, you talked about, let's say, DFL, and you're also talking about Indian law when it comes, right? Now, how do you, going forward, how do you plan to take care of if there is any kind of, uh, what you call clash between these regulations expectations? For example, no law talks about other than Singapore at this point of time that data need to be maintained even, privacy need to be maintained even after the person is no more for, let's say, 10 years, right? And how your system will take care of this aspect?
Okay, so if you see, this is the part here, as very well, you asked the question there, right? In the patching section, that's what I'll show you. Just give me 1 second. This will give you more idea of what we are actually showcasing you. Just 1 second, because I'll open my another presentation.
If I can ask you in the meantime, how big is your organization, Rakesh?
We are 25 to 30 member organization, and we are purely into automation solutions.
Mhm. Your development life cycle is also secure. You followed secure development life cycle.
Yes, yes, yes.
What kind of tools you have used for your privacy by design or security by design at the design stage? If I can ask
So
you.
yeah. So that's perfectly okay. The first of
Sure.
all our design mechanisms are secured through the secure servers, through the VPNs. It is not accessible to the open world. Then this solution, data privacy, has a data foresight, has the mechanism to keep a close or watch on what is happening. Even we take a screenshot. This solution even takes a screenshot of what users are trying to transfer it, be it even on email or even on what do you call it, or any other web mail, web WhatsApp. It is able to do all those kind of stuff, monitor how things are happening. Secondly, we have this solution. From this solution, you can directly block the access to any website that you can think of, and user would not know that these websites are blocked, and they would not be able to open it. Like, for example, I can directly block on thousands of systems. I can directly block with one click by the OneDrive or the web WhatsApp or Google Drive, so that they are not able to upload the documents. If I do not want to block those drives, I can just click on restrict file access, and they would not be able to attach any file, any locations, which has
No,
been.
fair enough. Thank you. You are talking about your applications feature. I am talking about, I am trying to find out that what is the secure engineering principles you have implemented while developing this product back at your, what kind of a threat analysis or threat factors you had thought about it at the time of design of your application. Are you
So,
getting my question? Yeah.
yes. So all our applications in the codes or the architecture that we are designing, they are being enforced through a privacy by design, so that from database level to the general application level, everything is encrypted at the backend. So even everything happens through the encryption keys, and even if somebody gets an access to the database, they would not be able to see what exactly is there except the user IDs.
Okay.
And rest, every single evidence or the files that you store, it's all in the encrypted format, which is AES 256. I'm just disclosing that it's AES 256. And then except the user IDs or the general terms like compliant, non-compliant, rest everything is encrypted at the backend, even at the DB level. And we just have the token mechanism through which we log into the database, and then that token builds up and then access the database there.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Srini. Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Okay, so as you asked about the patching part here,
Right.
in our solution we have sorry, these are the advanced feature of our solutions. I'll just talk about where this is a very good feature, where is the data tree visualization, where you see the data tree, exactly how the data has been originated from, where it was there, where it has started, and where it is being used, and who is using it, who has modified the last time. That's a very good visualization of the data.
Let me interrupt you for a second. Are you trying to show us another presentation? Because we are seeing the old presentation.
Oh, okay. Yeah, just 1 second. Yes, now can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was extremely sorry for that.
Great. Thanks, Manju. Even good. Yeah.
Sorry, extremely sorry for that.
No problem.
So these are the advanced features that we have. It's a data tree visualization. It's a very beautiful feature where you even, like, for example, I'll say that you put in your name in the search box, and you will be able to see the entire tree from where it originated, where it is lying, whether it's in the application, whether it's in the drive, whether it's in the database, whether it's and how, and whether it's categorized as a financial data or a personal data or a sensitive data, what custom tags that you have. It will be able to, you will be just be able to click, drag, drop, and you will be able to see how the data is being visualized. Now, one more feature here is, it's a very good feature in the system, that is a chatbots. This we developed when we were discussing with a very big telecom company. They had approximately 50,000 systems where they were identifying how my data is being lying. Now, their first question was that I do not have a resource and I have very few resources who can do all this activity. So we created a chatbot. It's a plain, simple chatbot. You can just say, hey, Whitehats, I want to scan all the sensitive information in my finance department. It's a simple language, and the chatbots will start scanning all the financial information and then send it across the report to you on your email ID. So that's a very big feature. And the most important thing is that it can be operated even by the fresher in the organization. You do not require a highly advanced resources to deliver all this business there for you. So that's a very big part for the chatbots. It's a very intelligent chatbot, and it keeps on learning whatever you keep in whatever data you put in there. It keeps on learning so that it keeps on optimization of what queries are being asked for them. And it has the ability to scan, schedule, send reports, do maintenance. And furthermore, it is being enhanced day by day as in more and more queries are being there.
Okay.
Now, in terms of the patching, we have 5 most critical part. We have developed few more, but these are the major part where if you think that data is not required, then you can delete the data from the file itself. Like, for example, it's a salary slip there, and you think that you do not require the name to be there, or from your system it is not required, then you can delete the data, and thousands of systems, just in one click you are able to delete those data, or you can delete the file itself. If you want that, you can keep it as a masked data, and this is reversible masking. Like, for example, you have the access, like just take an example, it's a financial data, and only finance departments should have the access to that data so that they can process the financial transactions. So only finance department would be able to see this data, and rest all people would be able to see the masked data. They will not be able to unmask it also. It can only be done through the central server or the panel. And as you mentioned rightly, sir, that Singapore and all these organizations, they are coming up that even if the person is not there, then the data needs to be protected for a good amount of time. For that, we have a case here where it is called transfer to vault, or mask and transfer to vault, which is a secure location within the organization, be it a storage or SAN storage or any storage, which is only accessible to a few members. You can tag all those data and you can directly transfer with one click all those data and keep it safe and secure there. The only option is there. You cannot, as of now, from this solution, you cannot take it back to the central location. You can only transfer to a storage location there.
Okay.
So these are the pointers that we have. Apart from that, we also have the options of how you can encrypt the data, you can password protect, so that even if somebody, like, for example, you can do a central password protect, so that you know that if somebody is copying the data, he would not have the password to break that data. So there are multiple features there, and just today we showcased the feature to the customer where their requirements. I'll give you a very good business case. This is a customer who has approximately 500 vendors across India.
Right.
And these are the vendors who are processing the registration numbers, the registration plates, and dealing with multiple kind of the data there. So their ask was that I cannot block or mask the data because they require the data.
Exit poll.
Sorry, sir.
Sorry. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so their requirement was that I should be able to take a screenshot of what data they are transferring to which location, so that I can see who are my vendors who are transferring the data. I do not want to stop them, but I want to monitor them, that what data is being transferred, whether they are transferring to Gmail, whether they are transferring to Google Drive or OneDrive or a web WhatsApp, because these are the major areas how the data transfer happens. People transfer it through a web WhatsApp, or people transfer it to a Google Drive, and then the vendors download, because most of the small vendors, they use Gmail. They do not have the Office 365. They use Gmail for processing their vendor requirements. So we just showcased them that user would not be able to know what exactly is happening, but every single transfer of the file would be captured and sent it across to a central server with the notification that this file has been transferred to this webmail.
One more question. If you can go back to your presentation where you have talked about the data discovery and the next steps.
Okay.
So for data discovery, do you depend on external ready-made solutions, or data
No.
discovery is part of your solution?
So this solution that you see, Data Foresight, it's a complete data security suite. It has the ability to scan, it has the ability to patch, and it is integrations are possible with any solutions. So as we mentioned, we have both the agent plus agentless scanning, because we even scan the databases also. So on the database, you cannot install the agents. So we have the agents as well as agentless scanning.
Okay, so
that's
you're
why we
saying your
call it-
solution does data discovery.
Sorry, sir. Sorry.
You're saying your solution does data discovery.
Yes, yes. So as you can see here, we have two licenses. One is the enterprise license, where you have the ability to scale n number of systems, because the architecture is completely 3-tier architecture. We have where you have the web server as a different central server, then you have a messaging server that keeps on getting the messages, and then it puts it back to the database. So it's a 3-tier architecture. We have the API-based integrations. One-click patching is there available, and then trends and multiple features are also available. For small customers, we also have the scanner editions. I'll give you an example like Nepal electronic payment systems. Like in India, we have NPCI. In Nepal, we have NEPS, which is Nepal electronic payment system that manages the payment switches to all the banks in Nepal. They are our customers who are using our licenses. So we have the entire solution. That's the reason why we call it as an integrated privacy framework. It integrates tightly, integrations is there with our Data Foresight and our GRC solution.
Okay, thanks.
So as you can see here, it has the ability to scan maybe Oracle, SQL Server, Postgres, MySQL, MariaDB. Now we have come up with even AWS S3, Elasticsearch, and cloud scanning like OneDrive, Google Drive. All those scannings are being done for the customers. So any further questions? I'll be happy to answer that.
Very, very nice, really. Curiosity, why did you call yourself as Whitehat? I understand.
Right, sir. So we are into, we will say we are into.
You're ethical guys. That's
Correct.
all. I got it.
Security guys. Right.
Okay.
So we're securing at the endpoints and the host. So it's kind of the ethical guys who are working to protect your organization.
Is your organization, this 25 people team you are talking about, is this any certified by ISO 27001 or 27017 for etc.? Any idea?
This year by July, we'll be getting the certification done, because last year due to COVID, we did not attempt for it. We set up all the privacy frameworks in our organization. We set up the VPNs and everything. And this year by July, we'll be 27,001 certified. First, we'll go for a 27,001, and then we'll be going for our 27,701.
Very nice. Okay, great. Thank you very much. Manju, you can take over. I don't have any other question. Very nice. Thanks, Rakesh, really.
Okay, anyone else with any other questions or comments on this? Okay.
Interesting session, Manju. Coming from me. Thank you, really.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Rakesh, and thank you for a very informative session.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thanks, Rakesh. Good night. Bye-bye. Have a nice evening.